Good evening, everybody. My name is Bob Irvin, and I'm the Executive Director of the Jules Accelerator, and we're just thrilled today to have you guys join us to hear our stories about what corporations are doing and startups are doing to make a difference to decarbonize the world. If you remember, we met last on April 22nd, which was Earth Day, and on Earth Day, we introduced our clean tech startups, our class of 8, which ended up being 7 because of one company having some troubles with trademark issues. We introduced them to you. And then today, what we want to do is tell you what happened over the last 90 days. What did those startups get from us working with our communities and network? Did they get any market traction? And what do they think, where do they need additional support? So that's a big part of today. And I'm going to put my slide deck up. I'm going to share the screen and show you the deck that I will be speaking from. And so today, what we want to do then is we turn the table. We're talking 4-minute pitches of the startups as they share their journey, but we also ask the corporations to share 4-minute pitches on what they're doing to reduce greenhouse gas and improve sustainability from a corporate standpoint. So it's going to be kind of interesting to see who wins out. It's not a challenge because collaboration will win when we all work together. The mission of Jules and some key metrics, we're trying to prepare the Carolinas for a carbon-free energy future through innovation. And some of the things that we've been able to accomplish since September of 2016 is we've worked with over 40 startups that have achieved nationally over 250 million in investment, over 300 jobs. 15% of our startups have been female or underrepresented minority founders, and we have 120 advisors. Our network is pretty robust, and we're pretty excited about this network. So what we'd like to do is get everybody involved here to be more collaborative, so that Duke is working with Lowe's and working with Chapel Hill, or Itron is working with UNC Charlotte, so that we can find even better companies to bring them in here and build regional capacity to create jobs, pilots, and investments. And we do this with our partner, Research Triangle Clean Tech Cluster. So you see the agenda, it's pretty full, it's 4 minutes and counting. We have these corporates talking about, what they're doing for sustainability and decarbonization. And then we have the startups following them with explaining their journey and where they need additional help. So that's the agenda. And then just because I don't know if I'll have time to get to this, the goal really after this meeting is to continue to support this cohort 6, but also to begin cohort 7, which is our next class of early stage clean tech startups. And you will be getting a call from us sometime in the next couple of weeks to begin the process of identifying what sectors we want to go after and what companies we want to work with to bring market traction to the Carolinas for these early stage clean tech companies. So that's the, now I wanted to mention a couple things about etiquette. Berman Painter's kind of guiding. We're recording this. If you have a question, do it through the chat room, and we will send out at the end of this presentation by Friday a recap of the meeting. But if you could follow those rules, that would be great. I remind you too that we are recording. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and get back to the keynote speaker who we're really excited about, Bryan Hassin, who is, I guess they call he's a global clean tech entrepreneur with over 125 million exits. And he's a Rice guy, went from Rice University, and he's moved from the Research Triangle out to Boulder, Colorado to lead another disruptive accelerator, which is the result of a combination of Rocky Mountain Institute and New Energy Nexus coming together. So we hope that we can partner with them as we have in the past to work together to accelerate climate innovation. So with that, I guess I'd say buckle up because we're going to move quickly. Bryan, it's all yours, and we sure thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Bob, for that kind introduction. And we're off. Good morning, everyone. I'm really pleased to be here on behalf of Rocky Mountain Institute, which is let's just make sure my slides are working. Yeah, a global think, do, and scale tank committed to the transition to a sustainable, prosperous, and equitable energy future. I spent my career as a climate tech entrepreneur, building, leading, and scaling 8 energy ventures, mostly at the intersection of energy and IoT, And after selling my last startup, which was based in Chapel Hill, wearing my Carolina blue, was really pleased to join the RMI team to co-found, launch, and lead Third Derivative, which, as Bob said, is a joint venture between RMI and New Energy Nexus. We describe ourselves as a fully integrated engine of climate innovation. More on that later. But I don't have much time, so let's get right down to brass tacks. Transitioning to a sustainable, prosperous, and equitable energy future is the challenge of our time. And a reason it's such a challenge is that innovating, commercializing, deploying, and scaling climate tech is really hard, right? Startups often face long paths to market, have significant capital needs. Investors have a hard time investing in climate tech. Their small teams lack the deep technical chops to invest across the broad array of categories that will lead to the energy transition. The commercialization pathway of climate tech often leads right through complex, bureaucratic, slow-moving corporate entities where it might take a startup a year just to find the right person to talk to. And corporates, from their perspective, they're setting ambitious climate goals for which they know they'll need to deploy new technologies, but they're simply not organized to scour the globe for innovative startups, test their technologies rapidly, integrate them throughout their organization, and scale up globally. And then all of this, of course, is set against a policy and regulatory landscape that is at best opaque and at worst obstructive to climate tech innovation. So we often think of startups as facing a valley of death along their path to scale, but climate tech startups actually face multiple valleys of death. And every time they successfully navigate one, they're back to square one, having to educate an entirely new set of stakeholders. At best, this slows down the rate of climate innovation, and at worst, it leaves promising climate tech to die on the vine in the process. And we see the impacts of that. A recent IEA study indicated that out of the 46 clean energy sectors where we need to see progress, only 6 of them are on track to help us meet climate goals. Only 6 out of 46. And spoiler alert, COVID isn't making things any easier. In addition to decimating clean energy jobs for mature companies, it's also making it that much harder for early stage climate tech startups even to get off the ground. In this time of civil unrest, in addition to the practical challenges that things like protests create for early stage climate tech entrepreneurs who are just trying to keep the lights on, it's also calling all of us to really grapple with the role of equity in this bright, shiny energy future that we're working to create. So you put all these together and yeah, it's a challenging time to be a climate tech innovator, but there's cause for hope, ample cause for hope. Transforming the way we make, distribute, and use energy worldwide is an unprecedented financial opportunity. It will require $2 to $3 trillion invested every year for 30 years for us to achieve climate goals. Some of that is to take mature technologies like solar and wind and just saturate the market with them. And some of that is to introduce new technologies with gigaton scale impact every year before saturating the market with them as well. So if you are optimistic that we're going to solve climate, if you're optimistic that humanity is going to survive, you necessarily have a long investment position on climate tech. And yet, climate tech investment lags behind other sectors. Somewhat counterintuitively, that's actually great news for today's climate tech innovators. It's a question of when, not if, massive capital inflows will come into the sector. In the meantime, more mature technologies like solar and wind are now cheaper than coal, and we see that as they massively outpace coal in new power generation. But it's taken solar and wind decades to achieve this level of cost and this level of scale, and we don't have decades. But fortunately, newer technologies like EVs are scaling up much more rapidly. If you look at Tesla as a flagship example, it took them years, not decades, to achieve that inflection point, despite navigating incredibly challenging financial times in 2008 and 2009. So the bar has been set for much more rapid scaling for new climate technologies. And to paraphrase the late Nobel laureate Rick Smalley, if we lay out the top 10 problems facing humanity over the next 50 years, energy, poverty, inequality, if we can solve energy, we get the rest of them essentially for free, which is a timely reminder that climate justice is social justice. So yeah, there is ample reason to be hopeful right now, but hope alone is not enough. My 2-year-old is going through a phase right now. I hope it's a phase in which every morning he wakes up and the first word out of his mouth is ice cream. And I love how hopeful he is. But despite his relentless optimism, we have not acquiesced to feed him ice cream for breakfast. And so it is with the energy transition. It's going to take more than abstract theoretical hope. It's really the application of that hope that's going to carry the day. And the good news is we're seeing the application of that hope every day. Just in the past few weeks, we've seen announcement upon announcement upon announcement of new funding available to early stage climate tech ventures. Corporates are stepping up, committing billions of dollars to invest in climate tech. A special shout out to one of our partners, Microsoft, who's also here on this call, who not only committed $1 billion to invest in climate tech, they boldly committed to pay down their entire carbon debt for the entire history of the company. And that kind of bold leadership inspires others. It's probably not unrelated that we then saw some of their competitors like Amazon following suit, but that's great. That type of competitive one-upsmanship results in everyone winning. And even in this fractious, politicized, polarized time, we see more and more bipartisan support at all levels of the government supporting energy innovation. And after the federal government unlocked trillions of dollars in response to the COVID crisis, it's reframing the way that both policymakers and even constituents think about what is possible in response to the climate crisis. So at Third Derivative, we're doing our part by bringing startups, investors, corporates, and policymakers together, all under the same virtual roof, to be rowing in the same direction to meet climate goals. While our startups are receiving funding, mentorship, and guidance to help them develop their ventures, our investors are receiving unprecedented de-risked deal flow for early stage climate tech from around the world. Meanwhile, our corporates have early access to transformational technologies that will help them achieve their climate goals, and all while RMI's unparalleled market insights and policy access give everyone in the ecosystem a significant advantage. So by bringing people together, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and we're able to bridge these valleys of death, increasing not only the success rate of climate tech innovation, but almost as importantly, the speed to success, since we're running out of time. We just launched a few weeks ago, and with still a week left in our application deadline, we have more than 600 applications from around the world of promising climate tech ventures, 2/3 of which are run by women, people of color, or veterans. And so it's clear that there is a need for this type of model of bringing people together. And the good news is we're far from the only ones. There are myriad other variations on this theme around the world. So if I could leave you with just one thing, it's that together and only together, we will create a sustainable, prosperous, equitable energy future. Together, we will meet climate goals. And so in that spirit, I'm incredibly excited to hear what everyone's working on, but especially to the graduating cohort, I say to you, you are not alone, right? You have each other, you have the others who've come before you, you have organizations like Jules and Third Derivative supporting you, you have hundreds of people on this call. You are not alone. So congratulations on your graduation. This is not the end, it is a beginning. So let's change the world together.
Wow. Thank you, Bryan. Really appreciate it. I'm kind of, I'm excited moving forward, and you certainly gave us a good foundation to work off of. Thank you very much, and we look forward to working with you. Now, to kind of get the flow going, as I told you, we reversed the tables here, and we're having the corporates do 4-minute pitches and see how they compare to the startups. But the pitches will primarily just discuss, innovation, greenhouse gas reduction, and things they're excited about working on. So with that, I will introduce our first speaker, Bryan Savoy, who is the board chairman for Joulz Accelerator and the senior vice president of business transformation for Duke Energy. So Bryan, it's all yours. Thank you.
Oh, good morning, cohorts, partners, and everybody on the call. What an inspiring message, Bryan, and I couldn't agree more with what is out there in front of us in clean tech and how we're all going to work together and make this a reality. As I thought about the 3 questions Bob raised is, what strategies do your organization have to improve sustainability, to reduce greenhouse gases? What role does innovation play, and what are you most excited about? I started coalescing my thoughts, in simple terms. Download content from your drone, turn on your tablet, charge your EV, adjust your Nest thermostat, flip the switch. Seamless. Task completed without a second thought. This is the world we live in. It's connected, it's tech-driven, it's more sustainable and evolving by the minute. The future of energy must mirror this. We know this. The future of energy is cleaner, it's smarter, it's more innovative. And at Duke Energy, we're at the forefront of this innovation. We're transforming for the future to serve our customers and our communities with more reliable, cleaner, and innovative energy solutions. While we may be a century-old company, we've always been an innovator. We find new ways to generate energy cleaner, smarter every day. We're injecting innovative technologies to reduce our environmental footprint more and more every single day. And we must continue to innovate and accelerate this move to a sustainable energy future. And last year, we solidified our plan with a net zero carbon goal by 2050. And that includes cutting half of our carbon emissions by 2030. And we're not just talking, we're implementing. We're 39% of the way there as of 2019. And we've closed 51 coal units, and we've got 30 to go. And we've got an accelerated path to close those. And we're going to do that by injecting cleaner energy solutions in the mix, whether they're extending the lives of our nuclear plants, which is a 24/7 zero carbon emitting source, implementing a lot of renewables across the system along with battery storage. And it's going to take a lot. I think Bryan hit it. It's going to take tons of investment. Mentioned 2 to 3 trillion a year. It is going to take every bit of it to make it a reality. And we're doing that. And it's not just about carbon dioxide, it's about water and it's about waste. We've reduced our water consumption from lakes and rivers by 684 billion gallons since 2016. It's huge, right? And we recycle 77% of our solid waste, keeping landfills room for other things. This type of comprehensive strategy doesn't come alone, right? We're collaborating with lawmakers, with community leaders, with activists, with groups like Third Derivative, with Joulz. We have to work with each one of you to make it work, right? And it's going to take all of us rowing together, aligning policies and rules that we can all coordinate so we can continue to have reliable energy, which all of us count on, and deliver cleaner energy. Innovation is at the heart of this strategy. We have hundreds of teammates at Duke that focus nothing but how do we become better, smarter, and faster every day. They look at our generation mix, they look at our customer experience, they look at our grid. And a lot of it involves digital. Many of you have met some of these folks, but it involves way more than that. It involves new technologies like how do we integrate distributed energy resources in the grid seamlessly. Right now, it's a high friction process, and we're trying to make that very seamless and so that we can maintain reliability and serve our customers in the way they expect. If I look at all the innovations we're doing, the one I'm most proud of is the energy grid, how we're transforming it from a very analog, 80-year-old machine to a very modern digital machine. We have over 300,000 miles of transmission and distribution lines, the largest grid in the nation. It is a phenomenal machine that delivers power to customers 24/7 every single day. And we're changing it. We're changing it so that we know when outages happen before they happen. When we know when there's a problem on the grid, we can redirect power so we can isolate the outages to just a few customers instead of thousands that go out. If you think about the grid, I think of it as an extension cord, right? If your extension cord has a break, everybody on the back end loses power. Well, the new grid has two-way communication and self-healing so that we can isolate outages and automatically solve those. We're communicating with customers in new ways using that grid data, and customers are going to have more control of the grid in the future. As we strive to achieve our net zero target, which we will, the grid is a foundational element, and I'm super excited about all the innovation that's coming on it. The energy that comes down the grid is what we use to download footage from your drone. It's the energy that turns on your tablet. It charges your electric vehicle. It allows you to have a comfortable home using your Nest thermostat, and it powers the flip of the switch every single time.
Thank you, Bryan. Appreciate that. Moving on to Chris Cassell, Director of Corporate Sustainability at Lowe's. Chris?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. Really excited to talk to you today and really excited to be part of this awesome coalition of folks working to create a better future for us. I'm Chris Cassell. I'm lucky enough to be the Director of Corporate Sustainability at Lowe's. As you know, Lowe's has been focused on corporate citizenship for a long time, but what's we're most excited about is the opportunity that we see ahead of us, and that's where I'm going to focus my remaining 3 minutes and 20 seconds.
Thank you.
We've got a lot of activity going on around the operational side, trying to reduce our footprint, energy, waste, water, all the elements that both Bryan's already mentioned. But the area that I really wanted to focus on today are products for the home. As you guys all know, homes represent a very significant portion of the global environmental footprint, and especially here in the US. And when you look at the top 10 list that Bryan started with, homes really account for the top 3 of that top 10. And there's so many opportunities to do things better for the home, from the way homes are constructed to the products that we use in our home. And when you think about all of the issues that are on Bryan's list, they're all interconnected. And we believe here at Lowe's that homes sit squarely in the center of those problems, and also squarely in the center of the solutions to those problems. At Lowe's, we sell a diverse range of products. I like to tell people that we sell everything from daisies to chainsaws and everything in between. And one of the areas that we think provide us with the greatest opportunity for leverage is providing better products to our consumers that help them reduce their footprint at home. And also better education on how to use and maintain those products so that they run more efficiently over time and they can make those products last longer. And when you think about the work that we're doing in the community, those same improvements that we make to the household can go to one of our main areas of focus, which is safe and affordable housing. When you take a look at affordable housing, if you can create greater efficiency in those homes, you reduce the average operating cost, which provides more discretionary income to the folks that live in those homes that they can apply to other areas of need. So like I said, all these issues tie together, and a lot of them hinge on innovation. So why is innovation important? Well, first, innovation drives exponential change. A small change to a product that improves efficiency can drive massive changes across the country and across the world. It also allows us to make progress with less sacrifice. You know, I think everybody in their heart of hearts wants to be more of an environmentalist, but when push comes to shove, if they have to choose between something that's easy and something that's better for the environment, a lot of times people default back to what is easy. However, with innovation, you can actually make a big change here. You know, you think about the introduction of the LED light bulb several years ago. It's something we kind of take for granted now, but if I told you either you had to turn off 3/4 of the lights in your house, or you could keep all your lights on and just switch the bulbs out, you know, the LED enables that. They use 75% electricity. And as a PSA, I hope Bryan Savoy will appreciate this. If you have not switched to LED bulbs, please do that today. You will be thankful that you did, and we will too. So when we think about where we need help, I mean, I would say first and foremost, we want new and innovative products in the housing sector, whether it's insulation, roofing, windows, air conditioning, appliances, all of those things that consume electricity in the household. There are better ways to get the same function out of those products, and we need innovation to help drive those improvements. We're also looking for new and affordable renewable energy technologies that can make it easier for the average homeowner to get renewable energy delivered to their house directly. And, you know, I'm excited to have Microsoft on the call as well, and Honeywell. When you think about smarter products and the Internet of Things, there's an amazing opportunity to get these connected products working together to automate some of the decisions that we keep trying to push behaviorally out to our consumers. And if we can make these products smarter, we can use data to help drive their performance. I think we can gradually drive that energy consumption curve down, both for the commercial sector as well as the residential sector. And I'll just conclude by saying that we're super excited to be part of this venture. We really believe that to be successful in this space, you need to have a public-private public partnership. Government, businesses, and individuals all working together to tackle this problem, because one group alone can't solve it. So congratulations to Cohort 6. I spent a lot of time with Enkoat. I'm particularly excited about their product, and look forward to hearing from them later. And Bryan and everybody else, thank you guys very much for the opportunity to participate in this group.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Words of wisdom. And next we're going to Heather Lux, a director at Microsoft, and she's been mentioned a couple of times. So
hey,
Heather.
That was nice. Thank you. Am I able to share my screen? Let's see. All right, so here we are. Let's see. Once again, congratulations to the cohort class. Very excited to be a part of your journey and representing Microsoft on the Jules board. So thanks once again for that opportunity. As I mentioned, Bryan stole our thunder, but I'm very proud to announce that Microsoft has a goal of being carbon negative by 2030. And what that means is essentially we'll introduce a portfolio of solutions that will get us trending to a negative trend year over year in our carbon emissions. And all up, that will help us get to our more aggressive goal by 2050 of eliminating all of the carbon that we have introduced into the environment since our inception in 1975. So pretty big goals there. And of course, they're not going to happen without some pretty intense investments in technology. So what you see now is just a kind of a visual representation of a number of those things in our portfolio that will help us achieve carbon negative. First of all, in our reporting on scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, we are helping to shape our business operations by having internal carbon scoring against some of those decisions in our operations. And then so that's our scope 1 and scope 2 impact there. And then for scope 3, we're helping our suppliers be more informed about their own carbon scores, because everybody's scope 1 and 2 is someone else's scope 3. And so we hope to introduce some new procurement practices that will help our suppliers become a little more informed about their own emissions, and in turn help us pressure them a little bit to take some action that will help us reduce our scope 3. We're also, by 2025, we'll shift 100% of our renewable energies from our operations to renewable energy sources. And then starting with our corporate headquarters, we'll be electrifying our global campus operations fleet by 2030. And then we're also shifting our data center design to use diesel-free backup power supply. Now we've got a number of portfolios or a number of solutions in our portfolio that include alternative fuels and carbon removal solutions. And then together with our power utility customers, we're enabling the deployment of some of the smart grid solutions that you heard about earlier, including leveraging digital twin technology to model grid assets, which improves energy forecasting all up, and as well as intelligent peaking automation. And then finally, we recognize that there's the rising trend of prosumers, and that businesses and individuals are becoming smarter about what type of energy they're using, and having a stronger voice, and in some cases becoming the generator of their own energy. And so, we're working with a lot of, again, partners and customers in developing solutions that are creating new market platforms that enable the prosumer participation in a decentralized energy market. And this is kind of one of the areas that we're most excited about. I'll touch on that a little bit later as well. I think it was also mentioned that we have committed $1 billion climate innovation fund. So this will be spent over the next 4 years. And really the heart of this investment is the knowledge that we know, technology solutions and decarbonization exist today, but in many cases, they're not at a price level that would allow them to be widely adopted. So some of that fund is kind of earmarked to help drive those price points down so that the solutions can scale and have a much broader impact across the globe. And then, oops, sorry, didn't mean to jump ahead there. And then we're ultimately, taking the rest of that funding and we're spreading it across sort of 3 separate categories of, developing new technologies and accelerating those developments. And then looking for those new innovations based on the best science available, and then promoting academic and nonprofit resources, profit efforts. We've got a good history here with our AI for Earth program, which is still ongoing in addition to the $1 billion SIF. But with that fund, we, in the past 2 years, the AI for Earth program, we have funded more than 450 grants across 70 different countries, specifically for decarbonization efforts and technology. And then, of course, given the technology landscape and ecosystem that we operate in, it makes a lot of sense for us to apply many of the tools at our disposal to develop new tools and deepen the engagement around sustainability with our customers as well as our suppliers. So I mentioned a little bit earlier that we are beginning to use that technology to have greater insight and transparency into scope 1, 2, and 3, and kind of taking the approach that, if more companies are reporting and transparent around their carbon scores, it could promote their own solutions to be more widely adopted and become a selling point, because we do believe that sustainability is the next big market force. And then we're also in turn, and kind of in that same light, we're providing more details on our own carbon performance across all of our Microsoft products, which includes sustainability calculator for our Azure data centers and our customers' Azure use, and they can derive the carbon impact of their Azure use through that calculator. And then again, as I mentioned, we're co-innovating with customers and partners all along the value chain for sustainability. It's been mentioned a few times, and it needs to be mentioned again and again. Nobody's going to be able to do this alone. We do also at Microsoft feel that we have a strong voice in this arena, and we intend to use it towards the removal of the regulatory barriers that could help or that could prevent technologies from scaling more quickly. And then we also have a number of internal ways that we leverage our own employees to participate in accelerating our sustainability journey, everything from volunteer opportunities, participating in specific sustainability projects, or also our week-long hackathon event, which is meant to focus on environmental and carbon initiatives. So I mentioned it before, our most we become the most excited in our sustainability office around the intersection between decarbonization, decentralization, and digitization, the 3 Ds as they call them. So when we see that, the place that we see this most likely intersecting is when we talked about that prosumer market. So businesses and individuals are beginning to play a much bigger role in how they're using their energy and using their voice to, their voice and their wallets to procure cleaner energy. So we want to continue working with power and utility customers as well as our partners to develop platforms where the grid owners, producers, and consumers of energy are trading that decentralized energy. So that's an area that I think has a lot of the Office of the Chief Environmental Officer very interested and intrigued, and they're continuing to follow and participate in developing some of those markets with our partners.
Thank you, Heather. That was a lot to digest. You guys got a lot going on there.
We do. Thanks again. Congrats to the
Sure.
cohorts. Look forward to working with you further, and thank you, Bob.
Yes, thank you. We can spend more time. I know Q&A can come in and we'll follow up with everybody, but to keep on track here, we're delighted to have Eskinazi, who's the Senior VP Sustainable Finance at Bank of America. So Ela, it's your 4 minutes. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob. Hope everybody's doing great. It's a pleasure to be a part of this dialogue, and thanks for all your leadership, Bob, and as well as all the key enablers. I had an opportunity to connect with 2 of the cohort teams, companies. I'm very delighted. The future is with them. So we really look forward to seeing them being successful, hit the ground, really take their applications, to new heights. So look forward to really engaging further, as well as, helping them at the right level as one of the key financial institutions, definitely investing in climate. So what I'd like to leave all of you is really a couple thoughts about what we are doing in the bank, as well as what the financial industry is doing overall. I think it may be worthwhile to reflect some of those perspectives too. So at the bank, we know we have a key role to play in terms of managing the transition to zero or low carbon economy. And we are very aware of our responsibilities, the influence, and the broad scope that we cover within our client or consumer portfolio. So if you think about it, it's a huge responsibility, but it's also a huge opportunity. So when we talk about sustainability or climate strategy, we talk about 3 legs, basically 3 prongs. The first one is ultimately risks, right? As you all know, risks is a key pillar, key competency in terms of, how the banks view their growth and how they manage basically opportunities and their portfolio. So one of the fundamental attributes of us is, do we really understand the risks, right, involved in climate change? Like there are different types of risks, physical risk, transition risk. So at the bank, we have had multiple pillars in terms of delivering on those risks. Similar to other banks, we already have an operating around ESRP, environmental social risk policy, right? That defines how we think about capital deployment, how we think about the impact of certain transactions we have. So there is again a heightened interest as a financial institution, as a bank, in terms of us integrating climate risks. There are multiple risks of every bank. So we are really incorporating climate risk in the way we manage, top down and in different several layers of risks. And TCFD is, some of you would know, is really gaining a lot of momentum globally in every industry, but also in the financial industry. So that's definitely a key piece. Again, every climate risk brings a lot of operational impact, revenue impact, the asset impact. So as you all know, so we are incorporating, we are assessing all these impact areas. So that's kind of the risk side. And we released, our first TCFD report in late April. So please take a look. We are always looking for feedback. And we provide a lot of transparency. This is something our investors, our stakeholders are looking us also to move towards a lower carbon solution influence and invest more into lower carbon solutions area. So please take a look, and I'm happy to receive your feedback and your findings. The second area is opportunities. I think this team, the cohort, you're all investing in the future. You're always bringing low carbon solutions. So we as the bank also trying to accelerate, trying to advance some of these solutions. Right at I think where we come in is when you're commercializing, you have that repetitive operations, that's where the bank will come and help you. That's where you're going to be able to scale. There are different vehicles then become available for you, as you know, with the different levers that you can pull in terms of making that investment, making that growth. And my role is actually centers around this pillar business side. We also work with corporates, Duke Energy, Microsoft, to help them also. And again, these are the prominent organizations, but we have a lot of corporates who are yet to define their sustainability roadmaps, who are yet to define their first level of sustainability goals. So we are trying to influence, in the way that we are engaging with them. So definitely we'd like to see more commitments. We'd like to see more actions defined by the organizations. And it's not just energy space. We're talking about transportation. We're talking about food and agriculture. We're talking about industries. There's huge opportunity. So we want to make sure that we are engaged at the strategic level, and we enable them to set that strategy, to set the roadmap towards decarbonization. The third pillar is our own footprint. As you all know, every company has a footprint to manage, to transition to. And we have achieved our first, the last decade goals. We are carbon neutral as of end of 2019 with scope 1 and 2. And again, we achieved that through a couple of strategies. We have been member of RE100, EV100. Again, we are trying to make sure as a corporate player, we are one of the enablers of growth of these technologies. And we are yet defining our next gen goals. So we are in the process of how do we go after scope 3? How do we think about the best way to think about financed emissions? Again, every corporate, every company that we engage, their emissions also becomes our emissions. So we want to make sure that we are working with our peers, we are working with strategic groups, advisory companies, nonprofits to help elevate some of the standard setting practices around scope 3 financed emissions. So we do a lot of work. As I think, Bob, you were saying, this is a collaboration. This is no player will do it alone. So as a financial industry or a key player, we're trying standards, the taxonomy. We're trying to make sure we influence the policy, positive policy. So again, we're trying to make sure we influence beyond our own footprint. So I will leave my remarks here, but look forward to engaging with you all further and seeing the next level of success from this cohort 6. I'm very excited about the future for them. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Ela. I think Bob lost his connection, so I'm going to fill in here.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks. Next, we have Evan Van Hook from Honeywell. Let's see, Evan, are you here? Nope, there he is.
Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine. How are you today?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Doing well.
First of all, again, thanks. Like everyone else, I want to thank you for asking me to speak today and congratulate the cohort on another big step. So they did ask me to speak about Honeywell's journey. I'm the Vice President of Health, Safety, Environment, Product Stewardship, and Sustainability for Honeywell. And Honeywell is fundamentally an engineering manufacturing company. We have about 300 and some odd manufacturing sites around the world, and then a number of non-manufacturing sites. So we really take it from a manufacturing perspective. And when I think about our sustainability journey, our focus initially, and some of it was sort of just fortuitous, is that we focused on sustainability the way a engineering manufacturing company focuses on anything complex that it wants to achieve. We believe there's a lot of analogs, for example, to the quality revolution, and the quality didn't really turn the corner with Deming's insights until they really understood that it had to be both systematically built into the enterprise and also part of the culture, so that it was the culture of the organization to drive quality at every one of those multiple decision points that complex manufacturing entails. We were somewhat fortuitous because our company launched what we call the Honeywell operating system, which is basically a lean-based overall core operating system that revolutionized how we approached manufacturing. And we launched that at exactly the same time that that I was hired in, which not because it's me, but because that was our sort of our touch point to launch our sustainability program more broadly. And what that gave us an opportunity to do was to build sustainability directly into our core operating system. And I guess, you know, again, coming from the manufacturing side, I feel like perhaps that's an area that has had too little attention. There's tons of fantastic attention on what should companies do, and frankly, there's been less attention really on how do they do it. And I think looking at quality as an analog, you can really see that in order to achieve a sustainable organization, you really have to look deep about how does the organization accomplish any of its major tasks, and ask yourself, can sustainability be done the same way? I could spend hours talking about how we built sustainability directly into the Honeywell operating system, which is, like many lean cultural systems, based on a boardroom to plant floor series of tiered accountability, lots of engagement, standard work with constant innovation, Kaizens, Gembas, Go See, with lots of literally daily continuous improvement. But one of the ways that I like to just sort of explain about how central it is that our entire Honeywell operating system is predicated on 5 criteria: SQDIC, and S is sustainability, with the other ones being quality, delivery, inventory, and cost. So the fact that we were able to make it central, but that also then connects it to all of those tools, behaviors, standard work, processes that we're using to drive all of the other elements that we think are critical to the company's success. So that has been our strategy. You might see that our former CEO, who was here for this entire journey, just had a best-selling book published last week called Winning Now, Winning Later. And he talks extensively in there about the criticality of building sustainability into his overall strategy. It's a very good read and really interesting coming from that CEO's perspective. So that was the strategy that we embarked on back in 2004. And as the entire company sort of matured around it, we could see it mature. And I do think it's achieved some really tremendous results, again, particularly for a large manufacturing company. We have reduced our greenhouse gases by well more than 90%. We are more than 70% energy efficient. We are maintaining a safety rate that is 80% better than the industry average. We also drive metrics around some of our less Honeywell specific, but still very important areas like conservation of water and water stressed areas, et cetera. But the main things that we wanted to attack were greenhouse gases, energy efficiency, and safety in our operations. And I think we're very proud of where we've come. The other thing that is not entirely unique, but special about Honeywell, and that sort of filled out the logic here, is that Honeywell is a company that has a very big part of its offerings in the sustainability space. We haven't analyzed it that recently, but when we analyzed it a couple years ago, more than 50% of our offerings related to energy efficiency. We're also either the largest or one of the largest manufacturers of worker safety equipment in the world. And we're also the developer of what we think is a very exciting product, which is our Solstice HFO products. You may know that a lot of former refrigerants had global warming potentials in the thousands. HFOs have a global warming potential of less than 1. They are used in various blends, but the HFO Solstice product itself has a GWP of less than 1. And we have calculated that just our sales to date of the Solstice product have avoided emission of about 160 million metric tons of CO2e to the atmosphere. And that compares with the current internal footprint of about 2 million metric tons. So we're really proud of the impact of our products. And that's one of our really important products. We also, as I say, about 50% of our products relate to energy efficiency. So we haven't quantified them all, but so that's sort of, I guess, the Honeywell story in a nutshell, that we did take that strategic core operating system approach, looking at quality as an analog. Through that approach, we have currently reduced our greenhouse gases by more than 90%, and we're in deep discussions right now with our CEO about where we want to go next. We do have a public commitment to go further, but he's really thinking, gee, where can we go next? And then we've wrapped that same thinking into our products, and we're having an impact with our customers that just dwarfs our own internal footprint. If I were to talk, and I've spoken to some of the folks in the cohort, and they've got some really exciting ideas, where I think some of the most important innovations are going to come from, in addition to the actual impact innovations, new equipment, new products that have a smaller impact. I think the efficiency is going to be absolutely essential. I think every corporation now wants to do the right thing, and it's up to innovators to say, how do they get to do the right thing as efficiently, effectively, low cost, high impact as possible? And that's where I think we're heading next in sustainability.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Evan. We appreciate that. Good presentation. I'm going to be, just in the interest of time, I know I've got 10 minutes of slack in here, but I'm going to make sure that for Ben Tacka, you got 4 minutes from Trane. We really appreciate you going. I'll hold up a finger with 1 minute left. Thank you, Evan.
No worries. I'll come in under the wire here. So, Ben Tacka, Trane Technologies, and in terms of the 3 questions here asked to answer, I'd say first and foremost, our journey so far has been already pretty successful. We set out in 2014 to accomplish by 2020 a couple major commitments. We accomplished all of them. Some highlights: we increased our energy efficiency in our operations by 24% over that 6-year period. We reduced our emissions intensity, and we normalized at a revenue basis by 51%. And we also considerably dropped the refrigerant GHG footprint of our refrigerant-bearing portfolio of products by 80% compared to 2013. So that got us to 2020. We also announced a set of 2030 commitments. And in terms of the strategies our organization has in place to improve sustainability, we focused on 4 operational goals: achieving carbon neutrality by 2030. So we'll continue to release our own energy efficiency equipment and software, intelligence services, building energy control systems on our own properties. We intend to be water positive in our manufacturing, so we'll return more water to local reservoirs than we actually take in for manufacturing processes. We'll get zero waste to landfill by 2030. And then also a big kind of another audacious goal we have is that although we obviously intend on growing the business, in 2029, we are committing to have at least a 10% reduction in our absolute energy consumption versus 2019. So growing the business while also consuming less energy in doing so. Big things in terms of innovations and how we're going to help our company meet these goals. For us, also align with all of our product portfolio because we're only doing the things to our own businesses that we can provide for other businesses as well. So, for example, we're going to be incorporating a lot of circular design. So thinking about material selection and kind of AI-enabled design, and then also new business models that might encourage more of a closed loop system when it comes to our products. We're really taking into consideration whole building science and not just thinking about the equipment that we can develop and release, but incorporating things like lighting upgrades and window upgrades, building envelope upgrades, really providing a holistic solution to energy management for retrofitting buildings, or of course, new construction, getting in at the kind of architectural stage and incorporating building science. I would say, performance contracting, we're also really driving more adoption with that so that we can provide for major energy efficiency improvements without a big out-of-pocket cost to customers. And then also, I would say the biggest innovation that I'm most excited about, and I know that kind of our internal sustainability team is excited about, I would say two major ones. One is passive cooling and heating. So there are some ancient technologies as well as some new innovations and technologies that we're looking at to help us really deploy solutions that don't use any energy, but also do create a cooling or heating effect within the buildings and homes that we're supplying solutions for. I'd also say on the technology side, DSM, so demand side management software, is going to be a big player really in flattening the curve, flattening the demand, curve, and making sure that we're building the bridge really to enable renewables and energy storage and helping out our friends at Duke Energy, right? And really providing the 21st century electric grid. So I'll cut it there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ben. We appreciate it. Great story. Jerry Williams at SAS, Chief Sustainability Officer.
Yeah,
there?
awesome.
Hey, Jerry, thanks. You got 4 minutes. Go.
4 minutes, you can hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right, great. 4 minutes is a bigger challenge for me than mitigating climate change. So here we go. I'm Jerry Williams, and my team is responsible for environmental and social innovation initiatives at SAS. And thanks for the opportunity to present today and share our story. For those not familiar with SAS, we're a privately owned global software analytics company headquartered in Cary, North Carolina. And in short, we develop software that allows you to make sense of data, especially large data. SAS helps you break it down into usable chunks so even somebody like me can make sense of it. What strategies do we have in place to reduce greenhouse gases? I think number one is establish goals that are aggressive but achievable. As a private company, we haven't historically felt the need to have external goals, but the data is just overwhelming. Climate change impacts are happening now and with increasing frequency. And so that's why we're announcing, along with not quite as aggressive as some of the goals I heard, but we're announcing a 2050 carbon neutrality goal and reaffirming our commitment to supporting the Paris Climate Agreement. We have interim goals to help gauge progress, including a 25% emission reduction target by 2025, 50% by 2030, and 75% by 2040 against a 2011 baseline. We also have numerous intensity-related goals for data centers and office buildings. So far, our progress is going well. We're tracking to meet our 2025 goal of a 25% reduction by next year, regardless of the COVID-19 impact. So we're seeing a decrease in energy consumption, which is the one positive. But we've had a pretty good track record as a sustainability innovator to help us set and meet goals. We were the first in North Carolina and the southeastern United States, for that matter, to announce a 1 megawatt capacity size solar farm. So since its activation in 2008, the capacity in North Carolina has grown to more than 6,000 megawatts. So it's been very impressive progress. We at SAS, we have 9 solar installations with most of that energy flowing into our directly into our buildings. Another solar innovation that's helped our sustainability progress was changing the point of interconnection for one of our grid-tied solar farms to use the power directly in our newest and largest building on the SAS campus. And solar is meeting about 50% of the electricity needs for a 420,000 square foot building. We've also invested in LEED. We currently have 11 LEED certified buildings, including 2 that have achieved LEED Platinum level certifications, and approximately 82% of the office or space at campus headquarters is now LEED certified. We're also an early adopter of providing electric vehicle charging stations with free electricity for our employees. And since our first installations back in 2010, we now have about 120 charging stations at our office around the world. We have a bazillion Teslas on campus if you ever want to check out Teslas.
You got 1 minute, Jerry.
All right, great. Of course, we're also using our own software to manage our sustainability programs and reduce our environmental footprint. One innovation that we're particularly excited about is the development of and deployment of a smart building analytics platform that we've partnered with, co-developed with a company called Building Clarity. Essentially, we're collecting real-time data from thousands of AI sensors, smart AI sensors throughout the buildings to help us increase our understanding of how they're performing. It's also helping us identify issues for quicker resolution and improving overall building efficiency. For perspective, the amount of data that we're streaming, we're collecting more than 1 billion data records each year from just one of our buildings. In closing, I'd like to applaud all those already on board who are working with a sense of urgency to address and mitigate climate change impacts. It's our belief that access to data and increased transparency can help reduce emotions and limit political tensions regarding hot topics like clean energy and climate change. We think there's tremendous opportunity in connecting analytics with advocacy to create something new, purposeful, and lasting. Thanks again for the opportunity, and glad to be a part of the clean tech journey.
Thank you, Jerry. Really appreciate it. Exciting news with what SAS is up to. I'd like to now go to the graduation. I'm sorry we couldn't be in person where we give out certificates. Instead, we'll probably send a Chick-fil-A gift card to each of the graduates of these 7 companies that will speak. And we're going to start right away with Good Solar, and Ethan Blumenthal, I think, or Miles will kick it off. So on to Good Solar to explain what's been working and what they need from us over the next 6 months. So you're on the clock, Ethan.
Thank you, Bob. Give me just a second. I'm going to share my screen. I think we've got it. First, I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning, and thank everyone involved with Jules for this whole process. We really enjoyed, Miles and I both really enjoyed going through this, and are very excited about our continued work. So first, I'd like to just kind of jump off by touching on some of the problems concerning energy use and burdens in the United States that Good Solar is trying to address. Firstly is energy poverty. Many experts believe that energy expenditures become unaffordable when they reach 6% of household income. Expenditures of 10% or greater is considered energy poverty. This graph just goes to show how widespread this problem is, and the work of the Renewable Energy Transition Initiative here in Charlotte really shows how big this problem is in North Carolina. High energy expenses and a lack of access to capital are fundamental to the inability of low and moderate income communities to participate in solar development as a whole. Obviously, we all are aware of the threat of climate change. We're familiar with the current impacts and projections for global warming, as well as the projections for these issues to be exacerbated. Issues such as flooding, air conditioning, all sorts of different localized burdens almost always fall disproportionately on low and moderate income communities. Good Solar is working to address these through its 4 charitable goals. Those are social justice by deliberately providing its services to nonprofits and low and moderate income communities, developing renewable energy to combat climate change, investing in community partners and communities, ensuring that all parties share in the economic benefits of each project, as well as building in communities to help build community resiliency as well. So with that, I'd like to just kind of pivot a little bit and talk a little bit about our experience through Jules. As I said, we've had a great experience through this, really helping to expand our network. In talking to our advisors, they really provided a lot of valuable advice and really helped us to see our work through a number of different lenses, which was very valuable to us coming at it as coming to this as a couple of attorneys. They also helped provide a number of key introductions as we work to expand our network and really push to develop our pilot projects. With that, as you hopefully can see on the screen, is another logo up there called Growing Change. We are currently working on putting together a community solar project for this nonprofit. Growing Change is a youth-empowered nonprofit organization near Laurinburg, North Carolina, that has converted a defunct prison into an expansive year-round farm and education center. They work with young people on the edge of the criminal justice system to provide life skills and job training, as well as clinical support therapy. So we're working on putting together a community solar facility to go at their facility in Laurinburg. This would be a large enough system so that it would provide power to the community at large, and we would be specifically reserving a portion of this facility for low and moderate income households. We're projecting something like 5 to 10% of the overall output.
You got about 20 seconds, Ethan.
Thank you, Bob. So next steps, we're really looking forward to a site visit and developing the details of what it would look like to develop here, as well as lining up financing, which is for us as the 501c3, both charitable and government grants like REAP grants, as well as looking for tax equity partners and impact investor partners to work through our LLC sides to really try to innovatively finance this and hopefully build a model that we can scale for the future. So we're excited to work in the Carolinas. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, everyone with Jules. And we look forward to continuing to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Ethan. We're here for you. Sorry, I'm going to rush everybody. Next, we have, for 4 minutes, Ryan Michaluk at Eavor. You're on the clock, Ryan. You might be on mute. I see your screen.
Perfect. Thank you, Bob, and Ryan and the rest of the Jules team. Working with Jules has been a great experience for us, and it's been a very quick sort of 2-month period. We do plan to continue working with Jules and your network going forward. Just to give a bit of a brief overview on Eavor. Eavor is really the world's leader in closed-loop geothermal technology. This would be infrastructure class closed-loop. An Everloop is really a giant radiator created miles deep in the earth and comprising 30 miles or more of buried pipe. This closed pipe system circulates water to extract heat from deep in the earth and bring it to surface to use either as heat or to be converted into electricity. So the problem that Eavor solves is that Everloop is really the only commercially viable, dispatchable clean energy solution that is scalable and deployable globally. We also solve the need for energy storage, as there is no need to store energy if you can simply create it when you want it. Why create energy when you don't need it and store it for later in massive batteries? It's much simpler just to create the energy when you want it. We joined Jules because the objective of the program was not to raise money for startups. There are many accelerators that focus on helping startups raise money. What Jules committed to us was to help us commercialize our technology, ideally in North Carolina or with businesses based in North Carolina. And Jules has brought those connections and potential customers and other entities who could help us bridge what earlier third derivative talked about as that fourth valley of death. And that fourth valley of death for cleantech is probably the hardest one to jump over. And that is the commercialization and scaling up of cleantech infrastructure technology. So working with Jules has worked very well for us in the past 2 months. And really the key thing we've gotten have been the introductions and connections that Bob, Ryan, and the rest of their team has brought for us. And a sampling of these include Duke Energy, who is the largest electricity generator in the USA, and a potential long-term customer and partner in our journey towards commercialization. We had a great meeting with Ashley Coleman and Robert McMurray from Duke, and we found out that Duke is a Zelfer technology. a term that Duke's been using for a few years for zero emitting load following energy resources. We didn't know we were a Zelfer till we had that call. We just knew we were dispatchable and green.
1 minute, Brian.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we were also introduced to Ella at Bank of America and have a conversation there. And we are continuing to do that. And I think, you know, one of the more tangible things for North Carolina, because we do know there's a North Carolina focus here, is that our Chief Technology Officer was introduced to Professor Manolis Veviakis at the Multiphysics Geomechanics Lab at Duke University. And Eavor is currently reviewing a proposal to fund an initial $200,000 of research at Duke University. And that would be the start of what we would view as a longer term relationship, having that part of Duke do research for us. So going forward, Eavor is focused on several objectives for the rest of the year. We are nearing completion of regulatory approvals for our first commercial project based in Germany. You may wonder why that's in Germany, and the answer is that electricity prices are really high in Germany. And at this point in time on the commercialization curve, Eavor produces pretty expensive electricity. So in Germany, they're offering $270 a megawatt hour for 20 years. That really helps you commercialize a new technology. We're also currently testing new drilling technologies that will enable us to build Everloops in other places that we can't build them now. In particular, that will unlock North Carolina in the future. And we are working on an equity offering within our technology company. Looking beyond the end of this year and sort of into the future, Eavor has a defined path mapped out to make our technology both globally scalable and drive the costs down to improve the capital efficiency so that we could become grid competitive almost anywhere in the world within 6 years.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. Excuse me. I just think that with the time and all, we'll get back to specific questions later because I see a few popped in here. August at Flux Hybrids. Could you go ahead and kick us off for 4 minutes? And thank you again, Ryan.
I'm going to share my screen and get the PowerPoint up.
I'm sorry, Cody. Go ahead.
All right, thank you very much, everybody. My name's August, and I'm here with Cody. We're Flux Hybrids, and really what the whole concept of our product is that we take existing vehicles and convert them into hybrids. Next slide, Cody. Cody.
Did you get it?
Yep. So you can see these are utility bucket trucks, and they really do everything that they need to do. They are equipped with everything, but the only thing that they could really improve on is their fuel efficiency, and that's really where we come in. So I'll go to the next slide. At Flux, what we do is we take those existing trucks and we convert them into hybrids, and really how we're able to do that is 4 components that Cody will briefly talk about. And what that does is it converts into a more clean and efficient vehicle. So the 3 big things that our kit offers and why our potential customers would want this in their vehicles is that we can cut your gas emissions by half. So then wherever you're spending on gas, that'll be cut in half, and you can take that money and use it to something better. The second thing is those carbon emissions. You heard a lot of the presenters talk about every company has these carbon emission goals that they want to reach, and we just want to help them get there faster. And then the third thing, even though it's the smallest percentage, that 25%, we can decrease those maintenance costs. And so those vehicles, yeah, you're saving money, but you're also getting those vehicles on the road to be able to do what they're supposed to be doing instead of in the shop. So now Cody's going to go over those quick 4 components and what we've done with Joules.
Thanks, August. To get those gains that he mentioned, we add these 4 simple components shown here with blue lines. The electric motor and batteries provide efficient power to the wheels, and our proprietary control system allows it all to play nice with your existing engine and transmission, while leaving the option for a plug-in. Let's see. Our technology has the potential to stick in many industries where we can destroy the explicit and implicit costs of using fossil fuels, but since we're starting out, we really just wanted to focus on one, and that's where Joules has really helped us out. Some of these companies, we got a deep dive into the distinct sectors in the utility industry, and that's really helped us see how we can fit our tech better to their goals. We got the info to do that from our advisors that were part of memberships and organizations for all those different sectors. And we learned things like, for example, co-ops might be more rural, and so they drive longer and there's less infrastructure around them to support them. So they generally might not use a plug-in model. Other advisors were involved directly in fleet management, and they give us great insight into their actual day-to-day operations so we could better serve their needs. For example, some fleet vehicles need to eliminate idling to save a ton on fuel and wear, and other fleets would rather trade the extra performance of a plug-in for not having to deal with charging strategy. And there's tons of differences in the info they get from data acquisition.
30 seconds, Cody.
All right. So besides all that info, just to improve our product, what Jules has really done for us is expand our network greatly without having to really do any of the work. It was instantaneous and really put us ahead in that aspect. August, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I'll add real quick to that. It's really cool to see how when we ask questions to our advisors, sometimes when they didn't know the answer, they could have just said, hey, I don't know. But instead, they went out of their way and connected us with someone within their network that wasn't even our advisors. They had no obligation to do that, but it's just really cool to see them go the extra mile. And then really over the next couple of months to even the year, what we want to do is continue networking in this area through the utility industry. And then the second thing is once we can finish our pilot test right now with NC State, is to actually do a pilot test with the utility company and see how our kit can perform with them. Thank you everybody for listening to us, and thank you to us overall.
Proud to be here.
Thank you, August and Cody. Really good. Glad we're a part of this. Go ahead. Enkoat. Thank you.
Let me just check. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ashay, and I'm the co-founder and CTO of Enkoat. Today, I'm going to be giving just a brief introduction to what Enkoat does, and then kind of go over our participation in the 6th cohort of Joules Accelerator. So I want to begin by, again, showing you 2 pictures of residential construction. These 2 pictures are 150 years apart, but you can see that there's very less difference between the 2 pictures. The methods and materials that we've used haven't changed a bit, and we're still using energy intensive materials in a 21st century home that leads to extremely high energy consumption. In 2018 alone, Americans spent over $372 billion to heat and cool their homes. Now, this has caught the attention of a number of states who are now passing legislations that require each and every home to become a net zero energy home. Now, how can we get to this 80% energy reduction in the most cost-effective way? Well, it all begins with an innovative solution developed by Enkoat. So at Enkoat, we've re-engineered traditional paint, plaster, and stucco to provide insulative properties using our patent-pending active insulation technology. So the insulative properties within these coatings become active once the outdoor temperature rises above 78 or drops below 72 degrees, thus giving rise to the term active insulation. Now the dashed line in this figure represents the temperature that you would set your thermostat to. When the temperature goes above 75, your air conditioner kicks on. When it goes below 75, your heater kicks on. In both scenarios, you're consuming electricity. With Enkoat's technology, the temperature stays at a constant 75 degrees for most part of the day. And this directly results in a savings of 20 to 30% on the heating and cooling costs. Now, through rigorous testing, we've also found that a very thin layer of Enkoat plaster is equivalent to a very thick layer of fiberglass insulation. Now, Matthew and I are the co-founders of Enkoat. We have our PhDs in structures and materials engineering, and we've been working together for the last 15 years developing innovative materials. And during this time, we've led multi-million-dollar projects from the fundamental research stage into fully deployable commercial products. At the same time, we've also surrounded ourselves with experienced and trusted industry professionals who've delivered products and services to millions of homeowners. Now, over the last 90 days, we were fortunate to be able to connect with a star-studded line of advisors from Joules, and all of them were just the perfect people that we actually needed to talk to. And we'd like to thank all of them for giving us their precious time. After every conversation, we walked away with a wealth of knowledge and insights that we would not have learned any other way. We're currently in talks with our advisors from Duke and Montgomery Development, as well as Lowe's, to get started on some pilot projects with our technology, which is extremely exciting for us. At the same time, we've been able to foster great relationships with these advisors of this last 90 days. And we hope that they will continue to stay in touch with us as we move closer to commercializing our technology. So as I've already mentioned, signing up for Joules has been the highlight for us, and it's been a great journey so far. Although the in-person event could not be done because of the pandemic, we'd really like to thank the Joules team, Bob and Ryan especially, give them a huge shout out for this. We really admire your commitment, and we are proud to associate ourselves with Joules. As well as shout out to Sophia and Sam, who we got connected to through Joules, and they've been working with us as part of the Duke Energy Initiative, and they've helped us with market research and get our answers to some key questions. At
Thank you.
Just 30 more seconds probably. Okay, so last 90 days for Enkoat have been even more rewarding for us. We secured second prize at the EarthX Climate Tech Pitch Competition out of 250 startups in cleantech. We just won our SBIR Phase 1 grant for $225K and got selected for the NSF ICOT program. At this point, now we are planning to apply for a Phase 2 SBIR grant, which would give us $1 million in non-dilutive funding to accelerate our commercialization. Now, as we move forward, we are looking for connections to stakeholders in our ecosystems of the building industry. These include architects, general contractors, residential and commercial builders, real estate investment trusts, and utilities. If you're tuned in right now and you can connect us with any of these people, please reach out to us at info@enkoat.com and join us as we change the world one wall at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashay. Really appreciate it. Good work.
Thank you.
Jeremy Akers, Blue Box.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Hi, everyone. My name is Jeremy Akers. I am the Director of Business Development for Blue Box Air. And before I review our journey with the Joules Accelerator, I'll give a quick primer on what it is we do, the impact we have on energy efficiency, building operations, and indoor air quality. So all air in a modern building moves through and is conditioned by the coils in an HVAC system. The coils can be dense, deep, and easily fouled with bacteria and biofilm. And as that occurs over time, it really impacts the energy profile of a building. But since these systems were created, the traditional methods of cleaning them have been pressure washing, steam cleaning, and harsh chemicals. All of these methods require that the system to be shut down in order for it to be cleaned, and none of them are very effective at removing the built-up dirt and grime. So with Blue Box, we're a service company that's delivering our patented treatment process performed on HVAC coils while the system is actually running. It achieves significant energy efficiency gains, increased equipment life, and coil disinfection and improved air quality. We use specifically designed enzymes in foam phase, and we inject them into the coils. It migrates out the dirt and grime while eliminating the bacteria, fungus, and biofilm. And our service replaces those traditional methods as part of a building's annual preventative maintenance schedule. Also, in response to the recent health crisis, we enhanced our cleaning protocol by adding a final disinfection step utilizing chlorine dioxide. We generate that into a foam, inject it through the coils, and it gets full coverage in the system. And we're actually proud to say that IFMA reviewed that protocol and has included in their pandemic response manual as basically now their best practice on how to clean and disinfect heat transfer coils. So, all right, now that that's out of the way, first thing I have to do is thank Bob, Ryan, Sam, and Sophia from the Joules Accelerator for first accepting us into this program, but then being so generous with their time, connections, and mind share. As I'll explain in a second, it's been a tremendous program for us, and it's in no small part to their support. So within that, we're much closer to expanding our reach, delivering some major energy efficiency impacts into North Carolina and beyond. But our goal within the program was to expand awareness, make inroads into the North Carolina community, and create opportunities for deeper measurement and verification of our service. And that's beyond what our technicians are able to do when they're on site with a client. And of course, this current health crisis has created challenges for us to demonstrate our services in person. But thanks to the many advisors that were part of the Joules Accelerator, we're well on our way towards some serious measurement and verification programs. And then ultimately, I think engagement with everybody we were able to speak with through this program. I'm going to highlight some stuff we're doing with Honeywell, Bank of America, Duke, and Trane Technologies.
You got 1 minute.
All right. So I want to thank everybody I spoke with, but with Honeywell, I'll mention Dan Powell, John Wong, and Jeff Hopkins. I ended up presenting to Honeywell's CTO, and I know our system is being, and our services are being evaluated at the highest level of the company. With Bank of America, Ella on the call, obviously she's fantastic, really great mind share and thought processes with everything, but she connected us with the two groups that manage the Bank of America portfolio. We presented to CBRE, JLL, and tomorrow I have calls discussing a pilot site with Bank of America where we'll come in and improve our technology. With Duke Energy, John Presley was the first person to connect with. He got us out to Greg Tiernan, his team, ended up presenting to basically people that represented all the states for Duke Energy. And we're again actively looking for a pilot site to do demonstrations, and they're going to engage some of their energy efficiency experts with the ultimate goal of bringing this out to their biggest clients and helping their clients save energy. Finally, with Trane Technologies, Scott Winger has been fantastic. He's not helped me navigate through all of Trane and connections and conversations that I really wouldn't have had if not for this engagement with Jules Accelerator. And pleased to say that next week we're going to be doing a pilot for Trane at a facility in Tennessee for them. And later on in the summer, we're going to be doing testing of our enzyme materials at their Applied Sciences group. We're going to be working with Thermo King and doing some testing for mass transit applications and cleaning of the coils in mass transit. And then ultimately the goal is to help them meet their carbon reduction goals and energy efficiency platforms for all their clients. So a lot going on within the Jules Accelerator. It's been a fantastic time. And with that, I can just say thank you for allowing us to be a part of this and everybody for sharing their time and connections.
Thank you. Now, I know we're going to appreciate it. Sonny and Patrick, you're last up here. So I'm going to give you your 5 minutes and hopefully we'll be able to get out of here with just being 10 minutes late. So
for a great program. So my name is Sonny Sanwar. I'm the CEO of Dynamhex. And today I just want to talk to you guys a little bit about what we're doing and what we've been able to do with the Jules Accelerator program. We solved the problem of cost-effective and complex net zero assessment. Everyone touched on this topic. So that's what we help with, helping cities, companies, and solution providers not do it the old way, but in a way that it makes sense to everybody, that's dynamic, that's data-backed. We're compliant with multiple inventories. We take nuanced data to make assessments and reductions, helping all the companies that have discussed net zero goals here today. Born and raised in Bangladesh, climate change is very, very personal to me, and I really hope we get to solve this in the next few years. So Jules was very awesome because it helped us open up the black box of impact, working with all these folks that have net zero goals to deploy our product. That way we can now connect all the dots together so we could maximize impact that makes sense to people across the communities. We've had an awesome experience because of our advisors as well. So I want to give a big shout out to Duke, to Microsoft, to Honeywell, SAS, Building Clarity, but also the cities in Charlotte and Chapel Hill. I especially want to thank Lori Collins for her support, as well as Bob, Ryan, Sophia, and Sam for sure. Operating due with COVID was challenging, but the extra support really helped us a lot. A few quick data points. We've met with 12 companies, 6 municipalities, 2 utilities, and 2 universities. Over 50 hours of meeting, a bunch of pilots in the works and some closed. We also were able to hire an MBA student intern from UNC Flagler School to help us during this showcase, so creating jobs as well. And we're very excited to help decarbonize the footprint here in the region and broadly overall. So another thing to highlight about Jules, it was very valuable to not know what's ahead from 2020 to 2030, but what has been happening in the past 10 years, right? So what has happened since 2010? So we were able to normalize data for a lot of the partners that you heard from today to showcase really, you know, how emissions have changed, to measure them, to see the climate investments they've made, and to now figure out how do we standardize this approach and make sure that startups like us could help play a role. So in the past 10 years, there's been a bunch of investments that have happened. It's not a typo. These 10 companies in the past 10 years have invested over $21 billion and have reduced 41 million metric tons of CO2. Dynamhex is the next step, right? How do we now take this and impact and scale this impact for the next 10 years? And that's why we're very excited to say that we're doing a pilot with Duke Energy in the town of Cary, where we will be able to deploy our product, the geospatial model of our product, to see the entire footprint of the town of Cary, building by building, you know, road by road, and see what the interventions from Duke's programs and services would do to help Cary achieve its net zero goals. So it's a digital access platform. We've distributed and decentralized the data and decision making so we could visually see how we're making our progress. And we also want to mention that we're working with Blue Box on you know, shout out to Jeremy for helping us, you know, measure the impact that Blue Box would have across these areas. Here you can see, you know, dynamically that you could see the impact of Blue Box if every building that qualifies for its technologies were to be adopted. You know, how much emissions could be reduced city by city, building by building across the United States. That helps ESG folks meet their goals, but also solution providers like us really validate our approach to the product and our impact. We're also working, you know, with a bunch of other partners locally in the area. And in the next few weeks, we would like to onboard all the net zero goals, both at the city level and the corporate level, so we could better analyze where we've been, where we are today, and what the next 10 years look like for us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sonny. Now, did you want to talk a little bit about Blue Box for 2 minutes?
Yeah, I didn't know the time, so I just zoomed through.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll give you. I'm sorry for everybody. We're running a little bit over, and if you have to leave, because I've got a lot of people that have had to go, and respect for the presenters, I try to keep it to 11:30. But I know this content is great, and we'll extend it for a few more minutes. But if you'd like to talk a little bit about what you're doing with Blue Box, that would be great. And then also, I think I want to give one more shout out to Andrew Walsh at IND Technology. But Sonny, you go first. Go ahead.
Sure. So with Blue Box, our approach was, you know, they reduced the energy consumption in a bunch of commercial and industrial heating and cooling. So to estimate what that reduction would be if we were to aggregate it across a city or across a corporate campus or any kind of geospatial boundary, that helps both the asset owner understand the value in terms of cost savings, energy savings, and emission savings, but also gives Blue Box a way to understand which regions they should target. And by doing this, you know, we've had great conversations in how they approach the process of decarbonization and how we could be the bridge through which we introduce them to folks that have an active, you know, building level goal, but they may not know how to have that conversation with prospective or potential solution providers. So you can't, you know, see it probably as great, but in the top left is our assessment of Blue Box's technology for the entire city of Charlotte. They could reduce, you know, almost 100,000 metric tons of CO2e and help Charlotte, the city, progress to its goals that they have for their net zero ordinance and the strategic energy action plan at the city level.
Thank you,
I'll
Sonny.
stop there to give.
All right, that's great. And again, all Q&A we can handle offline. We'll make sure we follow up with everybody, and thank you for that. I want to jump real quickly, if I can, to IND Technology. If Andrew Walsh is there, I'd like him to get, you know, there he is. Great. Andrew, you got your 4 minutes, and I'm sorry I missed you the first go around, and I know we're a little bit hurried, but there's a follow-up to it. So it's in your hands, Andrew. You got 4 minutes.
Hey, Bob, sorry about that. early morning here in Australia, so I'll blame it on me. Hey, so the business we're in, it's really around electrical faults and finding them before they lead to a serious consequence, operational impact, profitability decrease, or customer or community impact. So developing faults accurately before they occur is invaluable. It's a white unicorn. A lot of people talking about it, not many people are actually delivering on it. So electrical asset owners today really, they're trying to find faults by routine inspections, new technology, which is good, really then waiting and responding, and then counting the cost of these electrical faults. Our system, it's a real-time continuous monitoring system. It's built on an IoT architecture. It's data collection units placed 3 to 5 miles apart with smart sensing technology, edge computing, and basically integrated weather stations. So we're sampling the network every second of every day. The business, we've been working pretty hard through COVID. Never easy running a heavy growth business through this period, but been lucky enough to pick up a few customers, and really fortunate to be in the Jules program and you know, branching out onto the West Coast. Probably important background, we really were born out of the Black Saturday bushfires here. So people talking about carbon, you know, really we stopped wildfires. So that was the core of our business, and now very much into electric rail and utilities also. So examples of what our partners are finding with our EFD system: broken power line strands, power line clash damage, burnt out covered conductor, bird caging damage, trees on lines, trees getting close to lines, cross arms that are failing, primary fuses that are maloperating, transformers that are at end of life, failing clamps and connectors. And so all of these are common threats. They all hold public safety and reliability risks. We're able to detect and diagnose all of these remotely from Australia. We're able to locate down to 30 feet. And our partners were able to basically get out there and replace this before any of the risk was realised. So the timely discovery was a relief to the network owner, customer, and the community. Yeah, Bob and Ryan, really thankful for the opportunity to be part of the Jules Accelerator. Would have loved to be over there and meet everyone in person. And really appreciative of being part of this cohort. You know, we're hoping to do a trial in the near future with Duke Energy, understanding the utilities cycle. But yeah, we're hoping to see you in the flesh, you know, when we get out the back of this COVID crisis. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Andrew. And I want to thank the whole group. I mean, it is from starting with Bryan's keynote speech, going through the corporates, going through the startups. I know we had to rush at times. There's a lot of value here that we're not going to lose. We're going to work with the graduates, you know, over the next 90 days to finalize those connections so that we have good success stories to share with our communities. We hope we can work with Third Derivative, and we hope that our corporations will work together to help support us on cohort 7, which is kicking off here next week. So thank you all for your time. Thank you for energy. I'm so proud of working with the startups and getting to know you all. The corporates are successful. I mean, when you add up their revenue and their profits, they do represent a huge piece of the Fortune 500. So we were delighted that they were willing to join and share their stories with us. But most importantly, the entrepreneurs were with you. We support you, and we look forward to working with you more. So thank everybody for a great day. And I will send on Friday a recap. And any questions that anyone has, please send them to us, because we can go ahead and share any presentations. And I'm sorry for the extra 15 minutes, but thank you all, because it was well worth it. Take care. Have a good day.